In this vocabulary lesson, we're looking at top language for our modern world and modern society. Let's take a look at the vocabulary list. Globalization, communication, economy, trade, global, subculture, migration, rat race. So these are just a few really interesting terms that you can use when discussing or writing about our modern society. And of course, they may come up in the IELTS listening or reading sections of the test. Let's move on to take a look at globalization. Globalization is a term that describes the growing trend and rise in international communication, trade and relationships. So if we go back 100 years before now, globalization was much less of a thing. For example, the UK probably didn't do a lot of trade with countries in Southeast Asia, but nowadays countries trade and with everybody. People travel everywhere. Globalization, one big, small world. Due to globalization, many countries now have closer relations. Cheaper international travel helped to give rise to globalization. So there's two examples for this term of globalizations: an increase in global relationships. Okay, next up we have communication, which simply means speaking or communicating with a person or someone else. The level of communication seen online has increased since the early 1990s. Nowadays, most people have smartphones, which helps them to communicate. The verb of communication. And here we have economy. When we use the word economy, it's for describing the different ways a country generates money. For example, the economy of China is partly production, manufacturing based. The economy of the UK is partly tourist based or service based. Let's have a look at some examples. In some countries, tourism is considered a major part of their economy. The economy saw a huge downturn due to the financial crisis last year. And we use this word downturn to describe an economy that is failing, that is decreasing. If an economy is getting smaller, we say there was a downturn in the economy. Okay, let's move on to trade. Quite simply, it is the import, export, selling or buying of goods between a person or a company or a country, as a matter of fact. International trade is rich and diverse, with many different products and commodities being sold. Some people are beginning to trade online, but many believe this to be dangerous. And here we have the word global. Quite simply, global means our entire planet. In our growing global community, we should all try to act responsibly to one another. Global community is a common collocation when discussing the community of our entire planet. Much like in your hometown, there will be small communities. A global community is our entire planet and the relations we have with each other. On a global level, we need to try and build better relations with new countries. Here we have subculture. A subculture is a smaller part of a bigger culture. For example, I will show you this first example to explain. In the 1980s, punk was considered a major subculture of music in the United Kingdom. So punk is a subculture, a smaller part of the big culture of music. There are many different kinds of subcultures in art. And the next one is migration, and it's often used to describe the movement of people around the globe. Wars and famine have given rise to migration across Europe in the last 10 years. Migration from the UK to America fell by 5% in 1996. So, 2 examples for the piece of vocabulary: migration. Here we have this idiom, which is the rat race. It's not actually rat racing, but it's a term that sounds almost rude, but it's not actually applied to any people in particular. It's used to describe the culture of people being very, very busy with their lives and commuting, traveling big distances to work and living in an almost too busy, too stressful environment and trying to earn money. We describe that in a negative way as being the rat race. Again, it sounds rude, but it's not actually a rude thing to say, as we're describing like a feeling almost. I'd love to try and escape the rat race and really find my true vocation. Everyone is so busy in the city. The rat race is clear to see. And there we have all our 8 essential pieces of vocabulary for modern society.